Dr. Sumida, thank you so much for that webinar.
My pleasure. That was a lot of fun to get to do. Like I said, animation, martial arts, anatomy. How happy could I be?
It was amazing as an animator to listen to it. And
oh, good. That really means a lot to me. That really does. So.
I love the whole concept of the core body movement, and it's fascinating to hear.
Well, it's important. It's important to all sorts of things.
Well, I was wondering, there was one bit that we didn't have time to get to, and it's a student shot where he had two dragons fighting in the air.
Oh, cool.
Do you have a minute that you can stay and
take
a look at it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I've never made anything fly.
Yeah, no, and I tell you,
I'm dying to hear what you think.
And I tell students ask me, what's the hardest thing you ever do? It's film festivals at universities and things like that. And I said, oh, making things fly well is really hard because we're used to have ground reaction force and how you feel your weight for squash and stretch. But when you're flying, if you don't understand how things work in air, it's really hard to give that feeling of mass and weight. Yeah. Let alone fight. So.
Well, check out this shot. This is Dar Jabori, who is one of our Animals and Creatures students.
See, that's great because they're using their legs. Now, obviously, they've got to continue to use their wings to fight, and they've got to use their legs. One of the things we learned in How to Train Your Dragon is that everything lands with its feet and does everything with its feet because it's busy using its wings for everything else. And everything that jumps and flies does that, not just the dragons in movies. And one of the things that's sort of cool about that is that it also mirrors another thing, is that you'll notice that the bodies have to stay really stable. They can flap and flap and flap their wings, and they can kick and claw with their legs, but they have to maintain a stable body center because otherwise the wings don't work. You can't fly like this. You have to have something that you flap with. I mean, that's another lesson in and of itself.
When they're not moving at all.
But their bodies are being very stable because it presents a really stable platform for their wings to work. Well, just like someone who's fighting, if you don't connect to the center, nothing works when you fight. When you fly, if you don't have a stable center, your wings don't work. So this is where we have overlap between those two ideas. You can't fly with a bendy body or without a strong, stable, stiff core. The interesting thing is it sort of overlaps with what happens when you fly. When you fight, I should say, you don't have a stiff core when you fight, but you have to be connected to it. So fighting in the air, it's like it's got a huge overlap between those two concepts, actually. That's a really, really neat little...
So you were talking about in your webinar about how important the core body is, and you're talking about that with flight, too.
Yep.
And I can imagine when you're giving your webinar, you're talking about the core body, like you throw a punch, it's got to come from your core. You're kicking, it's got to come from your core. Well, when I act those out, I feel so grounded. Like I'm really feeling the earth and gravity.
One of the things that we tell martial artists and animation students both, actually, is to stand with both legs on the ground and then pretend you feel like you're sinking into the ground. Pretend you're getting heavier and sinking into the ground until you feel where your weight is, and then do the same thing over one foot or over another foot so that you can feel where that center of your mass happens to be. And that helps you learn to connect. So even if you aren't a super advanced animator or a super advanced fighter, you can still feel what's important to them. That's a great first step.
So what are these guys doing when they're not on the ground? What are they doing up there in the air? Where are they getting that force and momentum?
Well, what happens is that the wings are designed to have maximum amount of resistance relative to the air. So you have this huge surface area. Okay, when you fight, you concentrate your weight over a point. These animals actually have to spread things out with a wing. That's how they can stay aloft. But because those wings are working so hard, they have to be connected to something that doesn't move.
Okay.
So a bird, a bat, a pterodactyl, a bug, a dragon, they all have to have a really stable center on which those wings can work. But the great thing is if you build a fight scene in it, that's a stable center that you can connect those fighting legs with.
Oh, cool. And that's what he's doing in here.
So you'll notice that the legs are doing most of the fighting. The wings are still busy doing the flying. And they both have to be very solidly connected to the center. Otherwise, none of it would work.
Well, thanks so much for going over that.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great.
I hope we can have you back sometime to get you up in the air.
Oh, I'd love to do it. That'd be great.
Thanks.
My pleasure.